Hey there, welcome. Today I want to talk about Shakti, and it's kind of a interesting topic, which is the difference between Jnana Yoga, or the non-dual lineages for the most part, and Tantric Yoga, or the kind of yogas that seek some kind of experience. Maybe it's a taboo experience, maybe it's a sexual experience, maybe it's a psychedelic experience, maybe it's a ritual that aligns with the deity, a set of practices that purify the mind and our consciousness to realize bliss and oneness. And there's a lot of different tantric yoga practices and lineages and histories, and even within one lineage there will be evolution and change, and you'll have different leaders, different gurus that they will maybe do it a bit differently. And for instance, the Nata yogis, they are basically the predecessors of what Hatha yoga is, so the postural yoga. And these branched out, and this branched out into tantric paths, and very much like doing guru yoga, and branched out into what we call Hatha yoga today, which is very much more self-focused, and also branched out into non-dual paths, which we see with the author of I Am That, Maharaj, and Nisargadatta. And that's just a microcosm of tantric yoga. There's still so much more than even just that. And the reason I'm mentioning all this is I often talk about how there's this sense of conclusion, this sense of attachment, this sense of wanting an end in Advaita Vedanta and non-dual lineages. Funny enough, in the very name of Advaita Vedanta, it means not to, end of knowledge. Vedanta, the end of the Vedas, the end of, true knowledge. There's this desire to just have it, to have a thing, the truth, But the truth is actually like a lived experience. It is the ephemeral love, bliss, consciousness, ever evolving and flowing, unified in the multiverse, in the beyond the physical plane, and so on. And so the non-dual teachings are amazing. And the funny thing is, the highest tantric teachers express non-dual teachings, like Abhinavagupta, non-dual Shaivism. You'll see it even in the Bhakti saints, who, although they're not considered tantric, there's a lot of similarities of mantra and ritual and doing practices that create some kind of vibratory thing, just slightly different choices. One's with love and devotion, one's with also love and devotion, but maybe including things like sexual rituals and asceticism and so on. A lot of Bhakti saints have done this, but they also preach basically non-duality. And then that's the same for the Tantric Buddhists. That's this almighty perspective of there was never a problem, it's all perfect, it's all boundless, there's not a single thing you can point out that isn't that, and so what's the problem? And it's beautiful to read and to listen and to have a glimpse of that true, immortal experience that is unified with all. But there's a sort of there's a missing piece, I feel, in the commentary of non-duality, There's a beauty to the direct path teachings, which is like there's nowhere to go, there's no enlightenment to seek, you're already perfect. Infinity always has been infinite and always will be infinite. There's nothing that isn't infinite, so every part of our body and our mind and our feelings and our bad habits and everything we label and judge as positive, negative, good, bad, that's all just equally infinite. It's equally God. It's equally perfect. In the last video I made, I talked about sustaining this sort of awareness of infinity from whatever point we're at, which was dictated by infinity, which is dictated by not us. But there is a missing piece, which is bliss. We're gonna want it. Like, I haven't seen a single non-dual practitioner not go for pleasure. There's no judgment, I'm included, you know. But no matter how many times we realize infinity, no matter how many times we realize this all-embracing, unified love field of consciousness, and even sustain it for a long time, we're gonna want the overall experience to be good in one of the many ways good can be. It's kind of a paradoxical thing to talk about, because it's like we'll even go as far as accepting and loving, you know, physical pain and tension and conflict with people, and even like mishaps in the world of injustice and genocide, almost like accept it and embrace it so much that we can still feel a heightened sense of goodness, of pleasure, of joy, of love, of appreciation, of trust, euphoria, whatever, you know, serenity, excitement. There's infinite good feelings, but it's like part of the infinite itself to feel like this boundless goodness. It's like almost like, well, that which feels good is actually just reality. And that which feels bad is like a contorted, fragmented experience that is confused because it's like just holding on to all these separate, illusory things. It's convincing itself of negativity. It's creating its own negative reality. And we've just been doing that for centuries as a civilization, with many sentient beings choosing, even if accidentally, this painful, contrived, contracted reality and almost manifesting it. And that's part of our freedom. We are actually liberated already. Even the very fact that we can create negative karma and suffer and have pain and have a world that we made bad is innately part of the infinite capacity of liberation of ourself, of this. And so the acceptance in non-duality, the realizing it's perfect, the realizing it's all God, is not stagnant, which is why I make videos like, it's cool to say, don't search, God is here, but at the end of the day, you're probably going to have to search a little bit in some way, something that's going to look like searching, because it's not you that decides. It's not me that decides. It is just God. And the very fact that you're listening to this, the very fact that I've listened to other non-dual teachers and yogis, is a sign that we're ready for some sense of dissolution, of some sense of letting go of the old ways of thinking, the old ways of doing, and embracing the immensity of the moment of this, of God, of the infinite love. And this means we're going to tend towards the variety of goodnesses which are innate to truth, to the boundlessness of true existence, of God, and we're going to be able to use that infinite potential and capacity to see all the parts of our interior world and our tendencies and our lifestyle and our routine and all the people around us, to see the knots, that are basically like parts of infinity that forgot infinity and pay attention to only one part of the fractal, and then they're almost like trying to control that part of the fractal of infinity. They're just trying to make it the same thing all the time. And we do that physically, even, like deforestation and making our days look the same, eating the same things, doing the same actions, talking the same talk, walking the same walk. But we also do it with our mind, just trying to look at the world in the same light, in the same way. So like having this belief system, this evaluation system, and we just like impose that on one part of infinity. We're like paying attention to one part. In a way, it's lots of parts. Everyone has many little things that they focus on in their life: their partner, their work, a dream, a desire, their kid, family members, maybe the garden, maybe the car. But when you in total any individual's attention span, I guess, their holistic focus, they're actually looking at not like such a tiny part of reality, part of infinity, and they're trying to control it in a way. They're looking at it in a certain way, in a limited way usually. They want to stay there, they're attached. And the more we actually come in contact with just truth that's all permeating, the Shakti of all, the Shiva of all, this, God, the more we're actually just gonna wanna like let those go and let those change and let mystery guide us and let the vibration of Kundalini, of the love of little beings and large patterns, the bliss of realizing compassion beyond bodies, beyond humans and beyond animals and beyond plants and beyond insects, but also just to patterns, just to like the pattern that I, look down when someone crosses me on the street because I don't want to make eye contact. I would be able to observe this body doing that pattern and just feel joy and laughter and trust and fearlessness and so on. The point of all this is that it's never ending, and it's part of the essence of God, of infinity, of our true self, that we will tend to the variety of goodnesses and bliss, and will tend towards the most sustainable form, which does eventually go beyond physical pleasure to just awareness, being able to produce it spontaneously and permanently in infinite variety. So it goes beyond cravings and habits and addictions and needing specific foods and drugs and substances and art and TV and recreations and people and sex and appearances and visages. There's a sense, a more strong, stoic, indestructible sense of love and joy that actually underlies all existence. And just the very fact that we've become attracted to yoga and non-duality means that we're on that path. It might not happen instantly, most likely won't, because the fruits of the physical world, not that it's actually anything separate from God, are tantalizing, and there's many, and they're easier, but they're fleeting, and oftentimes they cause suffering to somebody somewhere else. So the more we become aware, the harder and harder it is to just hold on to those patterns and still feel good. And that Shakti, that impulse to reach true bliss, that vibrational quality of our being, is a process that is inescapable. And we are going to do it in one way or another, or at least attempt mirroring it, even if that means we talk about non-duality and infinity and perfection and it's all Param Brahman, and then we still just go about our basic routines and pleasures and stuff and try to milk as much love and awareness from them. But for nearly every being, there's no conclusion, and there's no listlessness that is the goal. The goal is that which is already present, but the more we dive into it, the more we're actually going to adventure in the cosmic spirit of bliss and joy and peace and love. And I say all that just to fill the gaps. It's my impulse to fill the gaps. I've read a lot of stuff, and I've listened to a lot of audiobooks, and I've watched a lot of content, and it's not often I hear that we're going to be part of God's orgasm forever. Beyond the limited view that we can take of that sentence, that's all I'm trying to communicate. And then maybe it helps us not be the type of person that tries to feel numb or tries to, feel rigorous, but to actually trust that there's innate bliss within our consciousness and our presence, and to sustain a sense of mindfulness and loving awareness as to experiment with letting that unfold, whether we call it the Kundalini or, love, bliss, consciousness. Thank you so much for watching. Om Sai Ram.